do your direct intro.
Okay, I'm in the mute.
Hey, welcome on to Optimize and Elevate. Yeah, that's a nice pump. I like it too. How you doing today, John? Oh, wow. We hear sirens in the background, right? Sure. It's very particular, right? I think last time we talked about Gardner's research cycle, right? And we're just getting out of that trough of disillusionment into where it's starting to find more and more just everyday mundane use cases, which is where the money is, which is where the majority of the use is. And so for me, it might pop up in a search, and sometimes it's a summary, but that's kind of old news. It's just gotten better. Snippets have been around a long time. Proofreading. I think so. Are we good? Okay, all right. We'll keep going. We're talking about trades. Trades. Okay. Sure. Percent. And it's super interesting to see as technologies come out where they get implemented, right? Like I don't think anyone thought the first use cases of AI were going to be in creative. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely things you can do with it. I just don't think that was the problem people expected there to be a lot of companies trying to tackle early on. And so you never know when something kind of out of left field says, "Hey, we do swing hammers, right, with this mechanization, right? We do, optimize architectural, right? There's a lot of things you just don't expect, right? Um, which yeah, yeah, yeah. He's been in a couple of industries, like it very in depth and intersectional.
I am great. How are you? Oh yeah, I know your rant was good, and I especially like the part about the calling the authorities. There's a visual right there.
Yep.
Yep,
Now you're in a city building right now.
I am in the Davis County Administration Building in Main Street, Farmington. Yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So you're actually really close to the isn't there a police station right next to it?
There is the no that's over by Station Park, but
Okay.
we're just
Separate area.
right downtown Old Farmington, we'll call it.
Got you. Brick buildings and nice old trees.
Yeah, so there's an old courthouse that still houses some of the administration, and then they build a new facility and it has a library attached. So we're in the newer building.
Is it different than like is working in city different from other environments you've been in?
Oh, absolutely. This has been an eye opener in as much a positive way as anything else. But yeah, government definitely is an interesting machinery. Yep, there are a lot of codes and statute driven requirements. So you have to kind of stay up on that as much as anything else.
Accounting.
Well, when I started here, and this isn't disparaging of the prior administration. In fact, Richard Mon has a great quote. I wish I could put it on the wall in vinyl. And his quote is, "If it's not broke, don't break it." So there's a lot of business as usual. People like routines, and they like things to operate almost semi-automatically. So when you are some of the staff here has been here for one in particular has been here for 50 years, and another member of the staff has been here for 40. And I think the average staff is 20 plus years. So we have 15 in the office here. And if you think about 20 plus years and all this institutional knowledge, the
Mhm.
problem that I discovered was it's all in people's heads.
Yeah.
And so there's a disconnect between the ability to onboard and to pass the baton when the baton isn't identified. So when I got here, I felt like so much of it was the oral tradition, and people would talk to each other, and yet I was missing a lot of the depth that can be. Well, and it's a recorder's office, so we have lots of documents, but the one document that was not here was any kind of referencing material, any kind of training manuals or modules or just anything. So when I first uh, saw that, I thought, okay, we need to do a better job of memorializing in. I don't want to say ink or in paper because I want to move away from that. I'll get to the AI part of your question, but so if you imagine the kind of traffic that comes through here as far as documents, you have government records documents and private citizens record documents, but there's also a very large real estate industry that records documents, attorneys, and then there are the staff, they're participating and doing it. So you've got four different buckets, I guess. You've got the general public, you've got government, you've got private enterprise, and then you've got, the staff. And so when I saw that we were getting traffic from multiple different entities, so to speak, I thought we've we've been electronically filing in this office since 2006, and that's just wonderful that so much of at least 80% of the documents that are recorded in this office per day are done electronically submitted. So there's special software for that. And so part of the day is spent reviewing the documents that are submitted and then approving them, and so that they can be recorded and be able to be in a digital version. But from 1945 until 1980, there are 450,000 documents that are either in hardbound books or on microfiche that have not been worked into a digital format. And therefore, it's 2 million pages of documents that are not accessible through normal internet channels. And so, but if you think about the number of people who are baby boomers and whatever generation for retiring, these people purchased their houses in the 70s and early 80s. And we don't have those deeds worked into. If someone came to the office, we'd be able to assist them. Someone, was trying to search for something, they're still available. They're just not set up in a digital format. So I said to myself, we need to figure out a way to incorporate AI into this so that they can use an AI model and scan the documents and then pull the information necessary and then abstract it and index it according to the information you've pulled so that it then is in a digital format. And that was the first eye opener, 450,000 documents. But then,
Yeah.
then realizing this, that, so one of the staff members had a copy machine scanned those documents in so that they're at least uploaded. Can you imagine the labor intensity? I don't know how it must have taken years. In fact, this individual was highlighted in the Ogden Standard Examiner for what she was able to tackle over a period of time, just even scanning the documents in so that they were in a digital cache. So
Mm. Well, the these are like laser discs, but are they bigger?
right. Yeah. So it's interesting also that um, we looked to vendors, third parties, to be able to help in the processing of this. So much of them were just using AWS or some other version of Microsoft's AI, and
Mhm.
it was overkill. In fact, what I discovered as I was looking into AI, something that I didn't know about until I started looking at different brands of AI, I guess we'll call them brands, is that it's possible to have a, a learning model that only pulls from the information that you put in the chipper. So you could use Chat GPT or whatever and search the world and have lots, probably a greater swath of reach. But if you're wanting to keep it specific and centralized, especially with the statutes and the requirements, to be able to have a learning model that you can actually upload the sources.
Mhm.
So we actually decided to try to tackle this in-house. So the IS department of the Davis County, Jeff Hassett, wonderful manager and wonderful department, are actually grappling and tackling this AI project so that we can develop within our own um, you know parameters what we need to do, rather than having it do lots of things that doesn't help us. So I've been
It
for
starts
example,
talking about bread recipes and things like that when someone asks
yes.
it about that. Yeah.
So, for example, I can upload all of the state of Utah statutes as a source into this learning model and then only pull from those statutes, or I can put in the documents that we are going to um, duplicate, replicate over and over and over again. But we know that they're perfect because we've worked them as, these people with all this institutional knowledge, they can work the document and make sure that, so if we make a document 100% accurate, then that is what we're going to reference from. And then as it perpetuates and grows, it's only going to get better at the specifics rather than having it open-ended using somebody else's platform as the backbone. Right. So in the meantime, though, we were discovered that we could have a chat bot for the whole entire county, and we'll be the crash dummies here at the recorder's office. But it's been great to be able to create questions and answers, and then upload those answers into as a source. And then when someone gets on the chat bot and asks the questions, the depth of our answers and the depth of our questions is strategic. It isn't retrospective. So we know ahead of time what we want. We're not just foraging, we're actually strategically trying to identify things that we know. So our return on our document, optical character recognition, and then the AI part of it is 100% because the documents that went in were 100%. And so much of the requirements of the different kinds of documents are statute driven that if the document is missing something, the AI will detect it. But if the document is same or similar, let's say it was a deed or a mortgage, it's going to be able to reproduce that over and over again at, in memorial without having any questions of the integrity or the accuracy of the search of the model.
So it will word for word pull the same text up.
Yeah, so it's wonderful that we create these frequently asked questions, but we're not giving the laundry list of them, dumping the whole list on people. We're allowing the chat bot to interact and interchange with them. And it's quite remarkable where AI has come from where it was. It's been around. I know that, John, you mentioned, but we're talking, 10 years ago when AI was, but the trial by error is basically what AI has done. It took a lot of error to get to where it's at, and we're still. I know talked about the creative side. How when I use my Adobe suite and the kinds of things AI can do there, but we're still getting 3 arms and 5 eyes and just all kinds of craziness that my fifth grader could draw better than as far as accuracy than the AI can. So that's coming, but not here yet. Right. So much of the paperless. So we're talking about just the cumbersome nature of paper itself, and the volumes of printed books and materials. Picture those old law programs on television or a movie, and they got the backdrop is the same looking bound books, and there's 1,000 of these legal looking books, and if you want to have a good visual, your backdrop has to be all the volumes of all the statutes, federal and state, whatever. Can you just imagine just trying to purchase the library in the beginning that you needed to have? And in some states, that was the law part, but let's talk about title, for example. In some states, title companies are required to have a title plant, which would require them to have all the documents that are in the county seat, but that they've acquired them into their data sources. And again, if you think about, we're talking 1945 to 80, but the 1944 and to the statehood and early, I've got documents that are handwritten that eventually will put in the chipper and see if the AI model can do something. But yeah, it's the reverse. It's like the pile of laundry to do something that you've procrastinate. And it's not procrastinating, but if you waited long enough, you ran out of clothes and you've got this big pile, the time that it takes to back up and to wash and rinse and do all that, would it pick up the piece of paper only once, scan it, and then never touch that paper again? Oh yeah. Nope.
No.
Right. Right.
Well, and I even got to stop you there for a second, John. I've worked with lots and lots of small businesses over the years, and I've been a part of some, newer small businesses. You'd be surprised how many traditional industries, connecting this back to the start of the conversation, plumbers, cabinet shops, right? Supply companies, they're scared of anything digital. They'll use a digital system, but they're like, print that off, put it in. They're always worried about, um, especially like more legacy style companies, right? They may be scared of the idea of something getting lost, right? Or like someone having an Excel sheet, then they can't find it, right? These might not always be businesses that are ran to the most tip top shape technical parameters, and yet they're extremely profitable, right? And so they're still on paper. Flooding and they're not on the cloud and this and that. Totally. Go ahead.
And so techno- technology, for example, in hospitals with radiology. So it used to be that they remember when they had the film, they'd have to develop the film in the film room and all of that, and then the radiologists are reading these arcane looking X-rays because they, radiation and isotope, whatever else, and then digital comes along and they're able to do that with so much better accuracy and speed. In fact, I was thinking the other day, as far as because you mentioned the traditional ones, think of and it may exist, but we'll use it as a hypothetical. If you were a dermatologist and you were able to have because remember, medicine has the MRI and the CAT scan and nuclear medicine with the isotopes and all. But let's say that this dermatologist was able to use AI from all of the carcinoma, melanoma, whatever research that they've had over the years. And then imagine instead of a biometric scan, an optical recognition scan of the body to identify the moles and then use the AI to identify whether they're cancerous or not, is better than what the doctor, with regardless of his years of experience and profession, this will not miss it, or it may be overkill. But I think if I was both the doctor and the patient, I would want overkill, study every little mole. And if you digitized it, then you'd have this body scan as a record. So if you went back 6 months later, then you've got a few more moles that didn't show up the first time, and the AI is going to say you have seven more moles, and this one could be cancerous because it's whatever it is.
Mm.
And so going back to the legal profession, I think there's a lot of ego involved if we think we know, but I would rather double check and second guess and do the research as far and have the AI at least assist in that than for me to shoot from the hip and throw out some legal opinion that's only based on my limited scope or limited acumen and not the science of it that goes back in time.
Mm.
And I don't really think part of it is ego, but part of it is the ability to iterate and jump to the next new technology. Because think of the MRI and the CAT scan along the way, when it used to just be the old radiation type of X-raying. And you're like, if somebody wasn't willing to explore, nuclear medicine, MRI, and CAT scan, then we would be missing out on, very preventative and curative tools that are solutions, and they're worth the price that it costs to acquire that equipment. So making the next jump in whatever profession, professional or not, it only makes sense. As far as construction, I really one of the one of- and I hate to name a tool, but it's the only way I can refer to it. It's called a Matterport. And when the Matterport camera was introduced and invented, it was a game changer, because the Matterport technology could three-dimensionalize the location. And so if you were, let's say you were a restoration company, and you went in there with your Matterport, and here let's say it was those fires in Mill Creek, and or there was a flood or whatever, and you were to use the Matterport camera to do with its measuring and everything, but then allowing the AI to identify some things. Boy, the trial by error that happens in construction is a bit of a surprise, but it really is trial by error. Your journeyman and your skilled professionals, their skill came trial by error. There wasn't any textbook to it. There was mistakes galore. And so the construction industry, utilizing that kind of technology. I know that one of the companies I represented was using digital technology to measure the amount of aggregates they had in their quarries and in their mountains and whatever else. And it's just phenomenal to see, using this kind of laser technology, that they were able to give themselves an idea of what kind of materials they had in this asset or this location, based on the use of a tool. Now, there's maybe not an AI application for scanning of aggregates and materials in something, but knowing when it works and seeing its results would beg the question: how will it help me with payroll? How will it help me with human resources? How will it help me with other things? I was disappointed when, well, I've always enjoyed optical character recognition, but I was disappointed when the macros didn't take off as much as they did. And now you've got, I'll say another brand, Claude, out there. And one of the beautiful parts of that AI is similar to the coding and the programming that a lot of AIs do. This allows for the ability to pivot simultaneously with making a choice. So you can have three options. I mean, it's like watching when you're ordering something and you can change the color and it's still on the same figure, but it changes 30 times for 30 different colors. And you're like, okay, if AI was able to search and optimize the colors, or optimize the styles, or whatever it is, it does more than just match things. It improves things. It makes it can identify something that's better than it would have been. Now here's an idea and an example. If so, in addition to the chat bot and what we're trying to do with scanning those documents, imagine if you were able to offer an AI data source to, let's say it's a developer. You mentioned developer, and let's say you are the data source. And what we're trying to establish here in Davis County is we want to be able to have digital plats, the big Mylar that has all these requirements on it that we're signing, that they're printing and all of that. I mean, we're talking the largest printer and scanners I've ever seen, just big plat. But can you imagine that if a company knew that they can pull from your trove and your resource the identifiables on that plat that are required and necessary, and they were able to submit that digitally to your office without a piece of paper, without anything, but going through all the measurements and showing all the markers and all the points of bearing and all the meets and bounds and just the boundary description. The whole thing is there, but not a single time is anything printed. It literally goes from your trove and they're pulling the requirements and filling in their blanks. And of course, it's customized because it's going to be every plat's different. It's going to be a different project. But for them to be able to submit that to the county digitally, have the county accept it, and then we record a digital version of that, and then we store that digitally. We don't have big Mylar. We don't have plats, the paper. We're not. And when they make a mistake, then they can correct it because we reach back out and say, here's a correction. I've signed, I don't, maybe 100 plats since I started here. And so many have to be reworked. And they literally, it's probably pretty expensive to print on those big Mylar plastic plats, but they got to do it over. Now, if we can create a digital format for them to be able to scan in their plat for pre-approval, and then to go through and then approve it and then record it and submit it and have it become a subdivision, that's the future. Redlining would be if someone was doing a contract and it was a bilateral, so both parties have a say rather than a unilateral contract where you just have to sign it. There's no changing, no negotiating. Redlining would be bilateral contract where you can change things that you don't agree with in the contract, and the drafter of the contract can do the same thing. No, but it's the similar reviewing process, but instead of having it be, I mean, think how many times back in the day when you would type something and then you throw it away and type something else to throw it away. It's so glad that we can type over and over and over again and change and use Gemini and fix our whatever, do a summary, and then don't even print, just send it. Yep.
So Kelly, I thought in this conversation I would have a really good idea of what a county recorder is. But we keep saying more and more banners under your job description. And now I feel like I'm even more confused on what a county recorder is. It's a lot of things.
Yep. We definitely, first and foremost, are the repository of official records. So if a person, it's not the birth certificates or the death certificates, that's vital records. Some counties have those. Our health department in Davis County maintains the vital statistics, the birth certificates. But in this situation, it's all land records. So besides the documents that transfer, the documents that cloud, the documents that release, you have the development documents. That would be the plats. And you're interfacing with the city because they have to, their own requirements, and they have to approve things as well. And their signatures need to show up on the Mylar or the plat as well. So being able to have one source, one Grand Central Station as the clearinghouse of figuring it out. It's not blockchain, but at least we're able to have different north, south, east, northerly, southerly, easterly, and westerly. Those are recorder terms, but you at least cover all your fronts. Yeah, so we call it pre-construction services. So the architects and the engineers and the drafters and the, even the politicians that are involved in planning and zoning and city councils and all of that is the preliminary stuff that's necessary before any dirt can really turn. And so to be able to not have to pick up the phone and call somebody or not have to have something mailed to us or something, and being able to interact with each of the different players, whether it's the developer, whether it's the planning and zoning department, whether it's our own assessor or our own survey department. So, you know, with all the important requirements um, that for especially for the plat, but when you think about what we do, this might answer your question, Jake.
Okay.
We have to, not only are we the repository, we have to approve as we review to make sure that the documents are meet the statutes that are defining those documents. And if they don't, then we're going to reject it. So if you were transferring property, Jake, to John, and you didn't transfer it correctly, or you omitted something, or you didn't do something correctly, we're going to catch that in one of our reviews, and we will mail back to you. But then again, that's mail. But in the future, it won't be mail. But we will email to you the information that's necessary for you to make that correction, and then you'll have to file again or record again. So if we can turn this off as more public facing, we're overhauling our website with that chatbot in mind. But also, if someone calls up and says, "Hey, how do I find this on your website?" We have 15 staff that doesn't give directions on the website because they don't use it. So I'm saying, let's create a website that's not just used by the public, but that's used by the staff. And then when someone calls on the phone and says, "Hey, I would like a copy of this or that," say, "Well, hey, let me take you to our website and show you where you can download the document and pay with a credit card or however you're going to pay electronically." And then you're able to download that document. You don't have to come in. We don't have to mail anything to you. Nothing's printed. And it becomes the 411 of real property in Davis County, but so much more um, amenable to both the public at large, but also the staff. So we're using a totally different in-house software program than what they would be using on the outside. And I'm trying to assimilate that together so that it is the same platform. I liken it to the old game of Battleship that we used to play. You've got one screen and I've got one screen, and we can't see each other's screen, but we can see the same pixels, the same dots, the same holes, the same spots.
Sure.
Well, one thing is true. You can't do anything part-time. So you're either full-time. So I'm full-time doing this. I've associated with another law firm to take over a lot of the other things that I wouldn't be able to give, good customer service to, a really good professional review of, so that I can just focus on what's here. But but maybe I'm too ambitious, but trying to change the culture as well as the technology here, it's a tall order. But at the same time, we pace ourselves and we see the vision of what it can be. And I just say I've got 4 years to get there, and hopefully in the next 4 years we will have adopted. But I've just been excited in the first 7 months to see how the county is embracing these changes. I'm not going to take all the credit, but I'll take a lot of the credit because I'm in here, rattling cages and pushing buttons, trying to get people to move from horse and buggy into the 21st century. Yes, exactly. Well, I don't think that it's a lack of trust in technology or AI. So I'm not gonna put some kind of moral peril there, but I'm going to say that when someone uses a tool and there's the feedback loop is a better result than what they would have received doing something else, then there's a certain aha moment. It's their own eureka moment where they're like, wow, this doesn't take away my job. It just makes my job a lot more efficient. And so trying to improve efficiencies here, again, part of what we're doing is if we push more of the burden of accuracy on the submitters and on those who are outside of this office, then our reviewing and our auditing, so to speak, of the documents and the information is improved because we've asked them to target things and label things and identify things for. So, for example, we have the software program that is used to scan documents doesn't identify who the parties are, what the legal description is, what the parcel number is, doesn't identify the kind of instrument or kind of document that it is. So I reached out to that company and I said, hey, I would like to have these single data entry fields that show the grantor, grantee, or the parties, the parcel number, the legal description, and all of those details, and have the submitter input those on on their own rather than us having to catch everything. And then when the AI will grab hold and say they did it incorrectly, then I'm not even the first wave of the review or the declining or the rejecting, because it literally is, if you don't have these 7 things on your document and AI knows them 100% for all the documents, then it's going to reject, and no, none of us will have to have touched it or have to deal with it. And so then the human resource side of it is we have now our staff joint reading, so 2 people tandem reading the documents, whereas before, being so inundated and busy without any specialized tools or anything. And now they have the time to make sure that the documents are worked correctly and are returned if they're not complete. And that double checking, or that second or third review, is so much better because we're catching more things than we would have if we were stuck with a piece of paper trying to highlight it or trying to, or we'll use your term, trying to redline something or change something. Yeah, I think that, and it's not more burden. If you Jake or John created a document, you're going to know the document better than I do. So
Yeah.
when you scan it into submission, fill out the form like I did for this Optimize and Elevate podcast. Fill a form
Yeah.
out and submit it. And if the AI says you missed this or you missed that, then we weren't the bearer of bad news, but they get it, and it'll train them to be more accurate on the submitting side. Right. So think about again, sometimes when people talk about the public service, because the public servant and the public, and even some of the people in this building, seem to not have a large enough umbrella or enough of a net. My customer is not just Joe Citizen who comes in and wants to do a warranty transfer to their son, or someone's passed away and they need to file a death certificate or whatever. The consumer or the customer, the patron in this office is government. It's the private enterprises and, private entities, and it is the public in general. So if we're just operating with the mindset of, let's say it was a copy place and I wasn't thinking of business to business, I was thinking just business to consumer, and not and same thing with the caterer or a florist. Their money is not in the in the ones and twosies, the people that come in and want to do it. Literally is in the large industrial contracts that they have, and that should be no different than here. If we can make, so to answer one of your questions about AI and how to optimize it and make it more effective and more accessible, but also more adoptable, would be, and hopefully one of the listeners is someone who's going to be on your podcast in the future, who also is focusing on AI. I really think that the missing link is not AI and is not the need. It is the training and the onboarding. And I personally believe that, because I was a corporate trainer before, you just can't, if we were trying to train on Mingle without having the ability to use slides and without other resources, and all we were doing was just you and I having a fireside chat talking about it, we would not do as well in our onboarding and training of those companies as if we were walking behind their computers and pointing out their mistakes. So somewhere what will make AI available and achievable for everyone, it's going to need to be a better process of training and onboarding so that they can see that benefit early on, even if it's just one nugget of truth that, oh, this can work for this, or oh, that can work for that. Then again, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. It's that self-discovery. But the best choice would be, if you were in the AI industry, don't just try to it's the like you said when you were scanning those documents, being on location, helping them, knowing how to do it is and you're going to be better as a instructor by the more you instruct and the more you present and the more that you have interactions and the more problems you discover. You're not going to really have that in a textbook or even in a webinar format. It's really got to be hands-on. So I think the future of AI is only going to be as effective. I mean, think about Excel and Word and some of those documents when we replaced WordPerfect. If someone hadn't given us classes on how to use Excel or how to use, I would be so lost in those drop-down menus and everything, because there's so many bells and whistles. I don't know how to use them. So any little tips and hacks and things you can get in a training format, it sells the software itself because someone knows how to use it.
Yeah.
So it ages us. It's back in the old Wayne days. That was the one you had to program. Oh yeah, the Sperry Univac unit that's stuck to the phone, and you're just like, wow, it's supposed to be a computer, but I'm doing half the work. Can you imagine trying to rebuild a boat plank by plank while you're out on the ocean water? And that's really what we're asking people to do. And so you don't want to sink the ship of their productivity and their production now, but
Sure.
but if there's a way to parallel and to augment it without disturbing it, and that's not going to happen if I have to look up YouTube videos of how to figure out how to use AI. It's really got to be
Yeah.
Here is my AI story. Here's my problem. Here's my challenge. Can you show me a solution? And can you teach me that solution? And when it's like a sample at Costco. If you're sampling the AI and the people enjoyed it, then then that's how it's going to, that's how it will take off. It won't take off just by talking about it or even showing the features and benefits. It's got to be show me how.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Well, and something that stands out to me too is you guys have to be super lean on time, right? Because if demand goes up, you don't magically get more personnel to solve the problem.
Right.
You kind of have the crew you have.
Right.
So anything that saves that time, it seems like is phenomenal. Uh, go ahead, John.
Uh, uh, that, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get all the years of me selling myself or selling something, and it's the first time in my life I'm not selling
You're
anything.
like,
So
no.
I know literally I don't have business cards because of like what's the use of business cards anymore? I'm not out there I'm not networking, so I'm not passing my card around.
100%.
No, that's okay. Davis County Administration is 61 South Main Street.
There
CDC.
you go. Bring up a
Right.
donut. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. My pleasure. And it's been wonderful. Keep up the good work.